Hello guys, today we'll be talking about the Gouden Leeuw, which is the tier 10 Dutch heavy cruiser you could recently obtain for free from the Journey to the North Pole event. And I assume that many of you do, but do not really have an idea on how to actually play that ship. Today I'm gonna be talking a little bit about that ship, how to play it, how to be efficient with it, and what build I recommend on using. As well as I will get a couple strategies out for you to use in games. So let's start with what is Gouden Leeuw. Gouden Leeuw is the tier 10 tech tree from the Dutch heavy cruiser line, which is basically the only line they currently have, but I want to inform you that we're currently in testing for the light cruisers of the Dutch, and you probably saw them in some of your games. The tech tree of Dutch cruisers is generally pretty good. Up to tier 7 you get more of a light cruiser kind of stuff that more resembles German tech tree than any other in terms of game plan, but from tier 6 above you also get access to specific kind of armament, which are the Dutch planes. How do you drop those planes? Those planes work in a similar manner to SFW planes, but instead of dropping depth charges, you drop HE bombs that hurt the surface targets. Those bombs generally have pretty decent pen and fire chance, making them excellent at setting additional fires on top of battleships and punishing those that try to camp near islands. They are extremely effective against ships like Des Moines, for example, since they not only can set them on fire, but they pen them whenever they hit them. Other specific things about the Dutch cruisers is the fact that you can heal up 100% of the damage done to you by fires. However, you burn like a battleship. In terms of other properties of this branch, you get very decent armor from tier 8. Actually, from tier 8 to tier 10, ships are basically identical to each other, with only thing that's changing is the fact that from each tier you progress, you basically grow a little bit. You have a little bit bigger guns, you have better numbers, you have better range under the airstrike, and that's basically the only thing that changes. From ship's consumables, you get the standard hydro, you get the access to the FA from tier 8, and you have the standard heal from tier 9. In terms of concealment, you are actually pretty stealthy for a ship your size. Around 10 km concealment on tier 10 is generally pretty good. Pair it up with 13 km range on the airstrike, meaning that you can drop your planes while being stealthy. Maneuverability on this ship is not the greatest, but also not the worst. It's pretty middle of the road. AA defense, however, is excellent. Pair it up with defensive AA, meaning that almost no CV want to mess with you. In terms of armor, you are pretty well rounded, being protected from AP rockets from the side, and generally all of the AP armament from closer ranges due to your 40mm plating on the nose protecting you from overmatch. However, on longer ranges you may suffer a little since your deck armor and top tip of your nose and aft is not really that well protected. In terms of main battery, on tier 10 you're equipped with 283mm Scharnhorst guns, which may sound kinda bad since you're getting the tier 7 battleship guns on a cruiser, but remember that those are still battleship guns on a cruiser, meaning that both of your armaments are pretty damn effective. However, to balance that, Wargaming gave them pretty low alpha for this caliber, so don't be surprised when your guns do not do as much damage as they should. Those guns have also a couple quirks to them. They have a different temperament, meaning that one game you're gonna have almost pinpoint dispersion citadeling cruisers with no problem, setting fires with every single salvo, But the other game, or even later the same game, you wouldn't be able to hit or set on fire one of the biggest ships in the game. The biggest downside of Dutch cruisers is also what comes on the price of the airstrike. You don't have access to actually useful SFW. All you get is 4 depth charges per use of the DD-like depth charges as well, meaning that against submarines you're borderline defenseless. Okay, with the general idea of what we have, let's move on to the built-in upgrades. We want to get standard recommended upgrades for majority of the slots. You can go for rudder shift or propulsion, and for the 6th mod you can actually go for multiple options. You can go for the reload mode, which I would recommend, but the range mode is also kind of viable if you're a little bit too afraid to come close. However, getting close on this ship is, in my opinion, very good idea, so I wouldn't really recommend going for the range mode, but you can. However, if you have access to Research Bureau, I would strongly recommend you to get the legendary mod for Gouden Leeuw. It basically comes at no price other than, well, not having the reload mode mounted on. It reduces the preparation time for your aircraft by 25% and gives you a possibility to hold an extra charge of them, meaning that you can have 3 airstrikes ready. In terms of captain build, I highly suggest you use the one that I'm using. You can experiment a little bit. However, the core of the build would be the gun feeder, which I strongly suggest you get, since you actually want to switch between the ammo times very often on the ship. 283mm guns can very often surprise enemy with very good quality of AP. The extra fire chance, adrenaline rush, and generally the 3-point perks I picked are very good for this kind of ship, and mandatory is that you run concealment. In terms of how you should play this ship, is at the start of the game, when you want to actually come a little bit closer to the enemy, you can use cover of islands, but you don't really need to. Your armor provides enough cover for you to actually kite away on open waters on middle to close ranges even. The optimal range, I think, for using your ship should be around 14 to 12 kilometers. This is where your guns still remain very effective, whilst you can always go dark if you need to, and you can drop your airstrike at enemies. How to kill enemies with Gouden Leeuw? Well, I suggest a very strong strategy of melting them down. Since you have access to the airstrike, you want to use it, but you don't want to use all of the aircraft you have at the same time. What you want to do is, once you locate your victim that's preferably pushing towards you and doesn't really have strong AA, but that's not entirely the case since HE breaks AA mounts. What you want to do is use your main battery to try set a fire, or use one single charge of airstrike to try set a fire, and force enemy to use DCP. Once you see enemy use DCP, which basically means that your fires are extinguished and there is a little bit of flickering lights all over the enemy ship, you want to wait it out. The moment the lights go down, the DCP is over and you can set them on permanent fires. And this is when you want to try to go all into them with your armament and your aircraft. That doesn't mean that you have to push Kawabanga into them. What I mean is that you want to heavily focus on setting them on fire again. Once you set them on permanent fires, you don't want to actually keep on firing HE on them. If they are broadside, switch to AP, and when they are not correct position for you to use AP shells, well, switch to different target for the duration of the fires on the one. Why? Because your alpha on HE and AP is pretty damn low, meaning that you won't be doing as much damage as you possibly can just by focusing on one target that you've already set in fires. You want to set multiple enemies on permafires. Good use of your ship also includes protecting allies with your extremely efficient AA. Having def AA and strong baseline of AA means that enemy carriers wouldn't be willing to attack anyone that's near you. Use that to protect ships with a low AA or the ones that are pushing to make sure that they have chances to win an engagement against aircraft carrier. In terms of pushing, your armor is actually good enough for you to tank most of the battleships in the game, but since you burn like a battleship, you don't want to tank anything for prolonged amounts of time. So what I recommend is you jumping between cover and being on open waters throughout the battle. Always plan ahead when you want to go, where you want to be shown up, and where you want to stay dark. You can drop your aircraft while staying dark as well, so you don't need to necessarily be hugging the enemy to do so. And that's basically it. Gouden Leeuw is not really that difficult to be played, and generally pretty average player could do with it just fine. This is why I highly suggested many of the players to get it for free during that event. If you master the ship, you're gonna be extremely efficient at dealing with many of the targets. So what are you waiting for? Go and grind your Gouden Leeuw today. If you like this kind of content, consider subscribing and liking this video, maybe share it to a couple of your friends as well. We're getting very close to 1k subscribers today, which means that I will be finally able to apply for monetization and earn some pennies from what I'm doing here for you guys, which will also mean more videos. It's nice to know that you're also being rewarded monetarily for what you're doing. The comment section is yours if you need more help or assist from me, or you just want to ask for tutorial for something else, or you just want to share some kind of discoveries that you have. I'm always happy to respond to your comments. I love talking to you guys. See you soon in the next video. It's been Senpai Silent. See ya.